This video is intended for those of you who have seen my initial review of a cheat table for Dark Souls Remastered, where it included an item swap script that needed a plugin to function properly. And if that plugin or the script or just the entire table itself is being wonky for you, then you can utilize Cheat Engine directly to do item swaps, but there are restrictions. So, if this is the first time you're seeing a video of mine, go ahead and check out that video in the description, because if you're able to use the cheat table and the plugin for it, I highly suggest it because it's a lot nicer, easier, and there are no restrictions. And then for this method, you need to be able to drop the item, and then you have to swap similar items to one another. So if you want a consumable, you need to use a consumable to swap. If you want an armor, you need an armor, so on and so forth. And then I purchased this copy of Dark Souls Remastered from Steam, so if you have another copy sourced elsewhere, I likely can't even help you. As it is, my debugging aid is already limited. With different copies sourced elsewhere, it's just a whole beast, different beast altogether. But if you are using the Steam edition and you're still having crashes, you can go ahead and enable the VEH debugger. So, let's open up Cheat Engine, and then link it to our game up here in the computer icon. And then here in Edit, Settings, Debugger Option, use VEH. Just in case it's not already enabled, go ahead and enable it. So I'm going to start with a consumable. Let's say I have this humanity. This humanity, and I want, what's the largest soul? Like Great Hero? Sure. So, first I need to look up and copy the item ID for a humanity. You don't have to bring up the drop menu, I just like to, so that I'm not exiting the screen by accident when I'm tabbing through everything. And then this list has a website up here, as that already came up. It's linked in the description, but I pasted it to my Google Sheets because sometimes the website is down, and so I come here if that's the case. And what did we do? Humanity? Yeah. So wait for it to search. Now here, depending on what you want to swap, you could have more than one result. I already know that it's going to be the second one, but I'll go ahead and make it as if I don't, and we'll go ahead and copy this first value here. So, I have what I think is the item ID for a humanity. Come back to Cheat Engine, and then up here in the value field, first you want to click on the hexadecimal box because we're looking up hexadecimal IDs for these items. Once that's checked, you go ahead and paste your ID, and then you run first scan. Alright. Then you return to your game, and now you can drop the item, and for consumables or stackables specifically, you want to drop the entire stack, not just partially or just one. You need to drop the whole thing. So once it's dropped, without exiting the menu, go back to Cheat Engine, and now we're going to input 8 separate Fs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you hit next scan. Now, you usually have at least one, it's almost always more than one, but here we have 0. So that tells me that we didn't use the proper item ID. So let's come back to this list. Now we're going to try this one. Go back to Cheat Engine, and now we have to do an entirely new scan and start over. But you always keep the hexadecimal box checked regardless. So, let's go ahead, return to our game, pick the item back up since we need to have it in our inventory. Do that. Rinse and repeat, now pasting the new item ID. First scan again. Now we have more results. If you're getting the same result, you probably pasted the same one by accident. Once those are loaded, go back to your game, repeat the steps from earlier, dropping the whole stack. And now input the null value. Was that 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Next scan. And there we go. You're almost always, again, going to have more than one. They all seem to be linked, so just go ahead and bring in the first result. Now, with this loaded into the main body or the address editor and cheat table, you're going to come back here, pick up the item, and hopefully it updated back to the item's ID. Okay, good. This will sometimes remain that null value of 8 F characters, If that's the case, then you'll just have to do what we did initially and just start all over with the new scan and repeat the steps up until this point until you get the item ID again. Now, for those of you who want to keep going, you can skip ahead, but I like to explain what's going on here so that you can apply it to other games in the future. So the reason why we are doing this F value is because I like to think of it as the null. So I'll just go ahead and read what I wrote here. Since we dropped the item /stack, it's no longer present in our inventory, which renders its value null. This null value is what we want to find to determine which of the memory addresses are tied to the item, since cheat engine scans take a snapshot of the game's or any executable linked to it memory state at the time of the scan. And now the item is missing from the picture. And that's what we're doing here. Since we scanned for the item type initially, because cheat engine took basically a snapshot of everything going on in this game in our memory, and when we dropped it, we took it out of that picture, or out of that scan's picture, but it's still linked to the item. And so now we're like, I want you to find what's missing from this. And so it did. Unless you feel the need to go through thousands and thousands of results manually, but have fun. So that's the sort of reasoning behind why we're using this null value. Okay, so moving on. Once you've confirmed that it updated to the item, we're going to go back to our list, and now, what did we say? The Great Hero. Now we're going to look up the item that we want. So soul of A. Soul of A. Let's just see. Great Hero. Cool. Copy that over here. And then you can double click here. Paste it, and now when you return, it already updated. So now, let's say you want to keep converting because here we lost the humanity in favor of the Great Hero. So what you could have done is initially, right, when you found the prior item ID, you can right click, go to browse this memory region, and then just kind of ignore everything up here, and then you'll come down here. Now all of these values are recorded in hexadecimal. They're not decimal. Here they match because we're below 10, but if this were say 92, I think in hexadecimal that's 5C, and that's what would show up here. Not all games will be this nice. Dark Souls Remastered is nice to us in that it includes the counter for these stackable items on the same line of the memory region for the item ID. So, when you identify that, you can come here and say add this address to the list. And then I'll go ahead and change the description to count. And then just for a little bit more organization, you can drag it for that horizontal line, and now it will cascade it that way. And now this value does translate to decimal, so we don't have to worry about converting it to hexadecimal. And if you see here, 99 is represented as 63. And if, like, let's say you do have something above 10, you can just use your calculator, and then you go, I think it defaults to standard, just switch it to programmer, and then just say like, oh, I want to know what 80 is in hexadecimal, and it's 50, right? And then that's what you would look for here. Right. So we see it update there. Go ahead and close that. So if we return to our game, there we go. You can usually either exit if it's not updating, but it should update like immediately. And now let's just see if it's valid. Yep. And since you saved it to the main body here, you can just, you know, keep it like that. And just prevent yourself from running out of it if the cheat tables flags like for no goods consumed doesn't work for you, then this is like a manual way of having that that flag work for you. And so let's say, okay, I want to keep my great souls and then keep converting. So what you can just do is just drop all but one, and then you can store that, or in this case I'm just going to drop it, and then come back here. And now that we've already saved it here, we know that this is tied to that. And you can go ahead and change the description to be like item to swap. And let's say I want more. What don't I have? A firebomb. I do not have a firebomb. Okay. So then come here. Change that to a firebomb, and I want, again, 99 firebombs. And there we go. So if I use one, now it's a firebomb. Come back here, just because I want a full stack. Boop, boop. Drop all but one. And then you just continue that way. And you can continue giving yourself more consumables using a consumable. So let's just go ahead and put that back. And then I should still have Soul of a Great Hero. 99 firebombs, 98 souls of Great Hero. Yep. And for this one, you know, again, if you want to edit this, you'll have to rescan again, because this is always going to be tied to this item. So whether you just continue to drop this, you know, one by one, and then you keep changing that value, it's going to stay to this item always. It's not, you can't switch back and forth as easily. So now for armor and weapons, since they don't stack, you just have to do it one by one anyway. We don't have something as nice as this for these options. So let's say I want this chain helm to then be an elite knight armor plus 10, right? So now, since I'm doing a new item type entirely, I have to do a new scan and then look up the item ID for a chain helm. So let's just go ahead and do that. Chain helm. And hopefully there's just one. There we go. So just since it's not upgraded, we just use the non-upgraded version. Okay. Come back up here, paste it into the field, do a first scan. Alright. Now that it's there, go ahead and drop it, removing it from the scan's picture. And since it's now removed, you can already see here it updated the first two results, which is nice, but let's just go ahead and keep with practice. And again, since there's more than one, just go ahead and do the first one. And I wouldn't bother changing the description here, since once you swap it, you have to do the whole new scan all over again. So this is really only for consumables or the upgrade materials, anything that can stack. Alright, so now we have the null value, which means we have to come back here, pick it back up, and hopefully it updated. Nope. Alright, so this is where, alright, I have to do a new scan, paste it again, first scan again, alright, drop, $8B, oh, alright. That's new, I haven't experienced that yet. Alright, let's see if this one will be the proper one then. Pick it back up. Okay. Alright, weird. I wonder why that first one. Anyway, in case that happens and you notice that, you know, now if you're gonna compare the address values and you're like, oh, I don't have that previous address in any of these results, then just delete the previous and then add the first one again. Either way, you just want to make sure that this is not the null value. So now that it's switched, let's just go ahead and look up the now elite knight armor. Plus 10. Where is it? Here. Okay. Paste. Switch. And there we go. So from the plus 4 to the plus 10. Now here's something to know. The durability does not carry over like it does with the scripts. If you go from something that had lower to higher, then you'll need to repair it. And if it's from higher to lower, this, like, so let's say it would be 300 out of 250, then all you need to do is just, like with weapons, just hit something random or just play with it and hit enemies. And then when it's time to repair it, the repair should keep it at the durability values that the item is supposed to be at. So that's just one other little shortcoming of this version, is that it doesn't update the durability but all the other stats do seem to be carried over. So those are the basic steps in order to have something akin to the item swap script using Cheat Engine directly. I know it's limited, but better than nothing, right? And where I learned about the memory region is from this Cheat Engine playlist, which I've linked in the description of this video as well. And that tutor goes over Cheat Engine by itself in great detail. I only watched the first few videos, but just in those first few videos is where I learned about this memory region, which is really useful because without it you wouldn't really be able to keep using consumables to swap. You'd have to do like a new scan, or you'd have to sacrifice items entirely without being able to preserve the previous item. So that was really cool, being able to learn that from those videos. And once again, stay offline. Everything I show you and how I show you how to do it, it will get you banned. Absolutely. And I know some of you probably just want to use this to make builds quickly to PvP and all that stuff, but it's bad enough that too many people use it for wrong reasons, and I'm sure that somewhere on Google you can find how to do it safely for innocent purposes online, but that's out of the scope of my videos. I just enjoy being offline and derping around. But anyway, with all that said, hopefully this version works for you, this method. And if it still doesn't, then sorry to say, sometimes things just don't work out because bad luck. Between different systems and Cheat Engine versions and the game itself, there can just be many reasons why this doesn't work for you, and I just attribute that to bad luck. So hopefully this now works for the majority of you.